Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Get ready to travel back in time to 1986, the year when Microsoft went public, the Oprah Winfrey Show was first syndicated, and when Wayne Gretzky was at the top of his game with the Edmonton Oilers, breaking his own NHL record for the most assists and the most points in a season. These are records, by the way, that he still holds to this day. Now, let's take a listen to what the House was talking about.
Oral questions. The Leader of the Opposition.
My question, in the absence of the Premier, Mr. Speaker, is to the Chairman of Management Board and the Government House Leader. I wonder if he would reflect back on his leader's hand-wringing over the Pay Equity Bill 105 of last week, and would the House Leader not agree with me that the Premier could solve all these procedural problems if he would lead his party in introducing the amendments introduced by the opposition parties and thus get the Pay Equity Bill through and eliminate the procedural problem. Why won't you do that?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable members know the announced policy of the government based on Bill 105 and a companion bill which the Attorney General has indicated would be introduced to the House before the end of this calendar year. Bill 105, which covers pay equity only in the public service, is before the committee now, and we intend to supplement that with additional legislation. The Leader of the Opposition would know that both opposition parties have introduced amendments which substantially expand the ambit of Bill 105. To the extent that the chairman of the committee ruled them out of order. The chairman has been reversed, as you know, and it's a matter that will concern the House, or at least I hope it will concern the House when the bill returns here, as it must sometime in the next few days or weeks. But our policy is well known, that we have the responsibility to govern. The opposition parties may deal with the bills as they see fit. My own feeling is that by reversing the ruling of the chairman in such an obvious section that was out of order, that if there's any dislocation that is associated with this important legislation, the authors of it are the spokesmen for the opposition parties, not the government.
Well, the
Supplementary.
Speaker, there's one thing that the government can't avoid responsibility for, and that is acknowledging that if they were willing to introduce the amendments or support the amendments, the procedural problem wouldn't be in place, even if it is as he describes, and therefore the government is really relying upon their interpretation of procedure in order to thwart pay equity in the broader public sector. Now, my question for the Government House Leader is a very simple one. As Treasurer, as Chairman of Management Board, wouldn't the Treasurer agree with me that all of Bill 105 could be applied in the narrow public sector without any legislation whatsoever, but through the normal route that the government follows in making pay adjustments annually? You don't need 105 to do what the narrow thing that you and the Attorney General want to accomplish. You can do it internally in the government. Therefore, if you're really committed to proceeding, why don't you simply implement 105 as you have full power to do internally in the government, and do it, House Leader, today? You don't have to wait another day.
Minister.
The honourable member, Mr. Speaker, must be aware, as are we all, that in the election campaign 15 months ago, this was a matter of some substantial concern, that we in the Liberal Party and the supporters of the New Democratic Party supported the concept of pay equity, not precisely the same, but in fact the thrusts were identical, and it is something that we have undertaken to bring before the legislature by a government bill, which we are now doing. Presumably, it would be possible for the government to raise anybody's pay in the public service in the way that the honourable member has described. But we feel that as a matter of important public policy, that it's something that must concern all the members of the legislature and through them all the taxpayers in the province of Ontario. That we think this is a proper and democratic way to proceed in an innovation which we think is important and in fact liberal.
Final supplementary.
The Treasurer will forgive me for suggesting that the 29,000 women only in the public sector who would be covered by his legislation, that the 29,000 women candidly only want to be sure that they get equal pay and aren't that tied up with parliamentary procedure that they care whether it comes this way or the way they've traditionally been given wage increases. They only want their wage increase. Now, the simple question for the Treasurer is this. If, as a result of the temper tantrum his leader likes to throw when he doesn't get his way here, he decides to withdraw 105, is the Treasurer so committed to pay equity in the narrow public service that he is prepared to give a commitment this afternoon to the House to implement pay equity either through legislation or directly in the civil service, as he has the power to do, by regulation prior to Christmas, no matter what happens.
Minister?
Right. Yes, sir.
Order.
Women in the public service. Or are you going to back off and hide under
Order. Treasurer.
I know the honourable leader of the opposition's commitment to pay equity wasn't enough for him to bring it forward in the election campaign, but only to advise his predecessor in a deathbed repentance to put it in that famous speech from the throne that was stillborn. His own commitment to it is, in many respects, questionable, but ours is not. And our commitment is that it be done by legislation, that the funding for Bill 105 is in the budget at the present time, and we suggest to the Leader of the Opposition and anyone else who is listening that if they choose to hold up the bill, which is an implementation of government policy, then it is an extremely regrettable decision made by the opposition parties and not by the government. We want to proceed with pay equity in the public sector and introduce legislation extending it to the private sector. That's our plan. We invite your support.
New question.
Pay equity to you is like beer and wine. You want to talk about it, but you don't want it to happen. If you want it to happen, you go ahead and do it. And we'll talk about your leader's commitment to stopping Darlington during the election campaign, too.
Order. Does the Leader of the Opposition have a new question?
Yes,
And to which minister?
My question is to the Minister of Colleges and Universities, who embarrassingly said he was, quote, absolutely delighted. Mr. Speaker, I use his word, absolutely delighted. He is obviously easily satisfied at the announcement today. Which net over inflation, I say to the minister, net over inflation will mean on average to the universities around this province, net over inflation, about $2 million. About $2 million new dollars next year, net over inflation. I have a simple question for the minister. Does he take the position that an increase of $148 million is enough for the universities in Ontario?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, talking about embarrassing moments, I recall the embarrassing moment that the Leader of the Opposition experienced a few weeks ago at the University of Toronto when he finally had to acknowledge to all gathered there that indeed 10 years of progressive conservative rule in this province had left our university institutions in a sorry state.
Response.
A year ago, Mr. Speaker, I announced a $50 million University Excellence Fund, which I described as a first step. We have now turned the corner with this second major initiative. Are more things needed, Mr. Speaker? The answer, in short, to my friend, the Leader of the Opposition, is of course.
Supplementary.
How would the minister like to be very succinct this afternoon and not answer the question I didn't ask with regard to whether more is needed? Because candidly, Minister, we all acknowledge that there will always be more needs and requests in the system, whether we're talking about hospitals or colleges or universities or health care or municipalities. We all understand that and respect it. We know that it would be nice to have more. My question to you simply is this. Your government has increased this year its total expenditures by 9.6%. Its revenues are up 9.6%, rather. Your government has in hand $2.6 billion additional revenue that it's fessed up to. You have been given, for 15 universities, which are as beleaguered as you describe them, $148 million, or $2 million per university above inflation. Do you specifically say that the $148 million you have been given is enough for the university system? It either is or isn't. In our view, it isn't. What do you think?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's the Leader of the Opposition's classic either-or statement, either-or question. And frankly, I can say to my friend, the Leader of the Opposition, that no such step was taken when he was Treasurer. No such step was taken by him when he was the Minister of Colleges and Universities. And I say to him, $2 million per institution will make a dramatic impact. In fact, the incremental funding goes very much towards the $170 million that he talked about and that he can spend freely as Leader of the Opposition. I tell my friend, the Leader of the Opposition, that if he wants an answer to his question, just ask the students, just ask the faculty, just ask the university presidents whether this is not an initiative that will turn the corner and keep us on a course towards revitalizing our institutions. I think there he'll get the answer yes.
Final supplementary.
Minister, they won't even find the corner with this amount of money, let alone turn the corner. Let me remind the minister that you're talking about $1.4 billion total going to the system. And all your treasurer has been able to find for you is $2 million per university to add to $1.4 billion. Now, with respect, Minister, it is difficult to put the proposition out that $2 million per university, where it's built on $1.4 billion, allows them even to get a glimpse of the kind of future they were begging you at that rally to give them last week. Now, my simple question to the minister is this. Inflation will be 4.1% next year. You've been given 7.3, an increase of 3% above the rate of inflation. How much does that net out to when you deduct from that the $24.8 million build carry-through that is built into your budget and the 17.6 for the current year that is the build carry-through in your budget? Can you give us the net figures for transfer increases when you take out the build commitment from the previous government, which you are not adding to,
Minister,
but just honoring? Do you have that figure this afternoon?
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I have never seen such shameless use of statistics in all my life in this House. The leader of the opposition knows. The leader.
Absolutely shameful. Really disgusting.
The leader of the opposition knows full well that the billed allocations are in respect of capital, and today we're talking about operating grants. And we have not hummed it all in, and you know that perfectly well.
That's called a sneak question, eh, Larry?
Order.
Then, Mr. Speaker, he takes a global allocation of $1.4 billion and global allocation for all institutions, and then compares it with what each institution will get individually. The facts speak for themselves. The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Speaker. I announced today a $148.7 million increment in allocations for operating for our institutions. This, Mr. Speaker, is the best news that they have heard in many, many years.
New question.
Thank you, Mr.
New
Speaker.
question, the member for Windsor Riverside.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question to the Minister of Health, and it's regarding his draft amendments to the Nursing Home Act, which, in case he doesn't have them, I'll send him a copy of. The Minister has not had the guts to release those draft amendments to the public yet. I'd like to ask the Minister, can he confirm that his draft amendments, which are supposed to reform the nursing home system in this province, they don't even refer to increased staffing levels in Ontario's nursing homes? Can he confirm that fact?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the amendments to the Nursing Home Act, which I have been consulting very widely on, are designed to deal with particular problems over which regulations have been drafted in the past and found to be wanting, particularly with respect to ownership, concentration of ownership, and dealing with other matters which are necessary to upgrade the regulations and the actual act itself. There are, Mr. Speaker, within my mandate, other areas or other ways in which to deal with questions of staffing, but the particular sections I do not believe refer at any particular juncture specifically to staffing.
Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know how the Minister can talk about improving the quality of life in Ontario's nursing homes if he doesn't change the silly staffing provisions that currently exist in Ontario's nursing home system. I'd like to ask the Minister if he can also confirm in these draft amendments there is no Bill of Rights for the residents of Ontario nursing homes, and there's no independent advocacy procedure in his proposed amendments to the Nursing Home Act.
Minister.
Speaker, I can confirm that the particular draft amendments are just that, and in fact we've had a number of discussions about what should be included in those particular amendments. We did speak just as late as last Friday afternoon with a number of advocates of changes to the amendments that we have circulated to those groups, including members of a number of consumer groups and the Nursing Home Association as well. And I can tell the honourable gentleman that we did in fact discuss questions of the Bill of Rights and other sorts of opportunities, but those are not reflected in this particular draft.
Final supplementary.
I'd like to ask the Minister if the Minister can further confirm that in his proposed amendments with regard to fiscal accountability or financial accountability, the only statement is that the owners will have to provide a statement of profit and loss for that fiscal year, which will be a completely meaningless provision of information to both relatives, residents, and members of this legislature. And finally, when are you going to introduce these amendments so that we can put proper amendments forward to your amendments to improve this bunch of garbage that you're proposing to the residents of Ontario nursing homes?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that the honourable gentleman will know that this is not garbage. In fact, there are major steps being taken to deal with problems that have been made evident over the past several months as we've had to deal with this system. We have, Mr. Speaker, indicated quite clearly that there are problems with respect to ownership and concentration of ownership which we wish to be able to deal with under these amendments. There are other areas in which we wish to take steps forward, and I can tell the honourable gentleman that the information provided for annual filing of information on financial matters is one of those items which I think will be of help to us. I can tell you that there are a number of ways in which we hope to improve the quality of life in nursing homes. These amendments will be of some assistance. The reorganization within our ministry will be another way of helping to improve those conditions. And I can tell, Mr. Speaker, the people of this province that the manner in which we are providing extra funds through the contracting for service with our nursing home operators, I think will indeed assist the increase of quality of care in those facilities.
New question, the member for Scarborough West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Community and Social Services and flows from the Hunger Conference held this weekend. I suppose I should start by thanking you for the lunch that was provided by the Government of Ontario. I only wish that you fed the people of the province as well as you fed us at the Park Plaza. On Sunday, it was suggested by a number of delegates that each delegate should leave that place and that discussion and come and talk to their government representatives about just what their specific plans are to eliminate hunger and the need for food banks over the next 18 months. So I'm coming to you. What are your specific plans?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is well aware of the fact and, in fact, has supported the initiative of the government to do a complete review of the social assistance programs in Ontario, and it is our understanding that the report of that review will be available this coming spring. So that's one fact. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, the member is aware that we did make significant increases in our rate structure in January. As part of our next year's package, we did begin in September of this year by giving additional dollars for shelter subsidies so that more money would be available for food. I will be announcing in the next 3 or 4 days what the rate increases are for the coming year. I would also remind the member that Reverend Drainville, the conference chairman, indicated very clearly that this was the first step and that provincial governments, among others, would be doing a series of things, and those are some of them.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, supplementary, the Minister will know that many who go hungry and go to the food banks these days are children or the single parents of children on assistance. Too often these children become wards of the state through the frustration that falls upon the parents. Foster parents in Ontario who are given responsibility for those children can receive up to $698 a month more per month to feed and clothe, say, the 3 teenage children of a family benefits mother, more than that mother would have for herself and all those children, including their housing and shelter. Why does your ministry think that foster parents might need as much as $570-some a month for each child to raise it properly, while it only considers that a family benefits mother needs $100 a month? Is it not one way of helping to stamp out hunger to recognize the real costs of family benefit mothers, and perhaps in your rate increases you will match that which you give to middle-class parents to look after their kids?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member will recognize and remember that in our 86 rate increases, there were 3 or 4 very distinct increases directed specifically at children, and that will be continued in the next ones. I would point out to the member, however, that assistance to foster parents is a very specific and a very different program from the general social assistance program, and I don't believe it's appropriate to match those two. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt that single parents raising children need more money. There's no question about that. Additional money has been given. Additional money will be given. This is a longer-term program, and we'll continue to deal with it.
Final supplementary.
I say somewhat ironically, Mr. Speaker, that perhaps we should make all single parents foster parents, single recipients foster parents, so that they can meet their budget needs. Does the minister ally himself with the government's official representative at that conference, the member from Brampton, who wished to, although he couldn't be there for the Day of Solutions, wanted to get his on record as his solution for replacing the food banks, with the suggestion that there be co-op retail outlets only for the use of social assistance recipients, who would then be able to purchase excess produce from the various marketing boards around the province?
God, what a Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't had an opportunity to discuss the member from Brampton's proposal with him. However, I would point out to him that there are some low-income parent co-ops in this province. There's one in my neighboring community of Cambridge, which is assisted by this ministry. No, it's not the only answer by any means. But if a group of low-income parents want to start a self-help project, we've indicated that we'll certainly help with it. But it's not a replacement, no.
New question. The member for Mississauga East.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Transportation and Communications. Mr. Minister, in the public accounts proceedings of last week, as well as in the General Government Committees dealing with your estimates, it was stated that $3.5 million was paid out in severance to the 71 employees terminated by Lavalin, subsequent to Lavalин's purchase of UTDC. It would seem to me that since it was Lavalin which decided to terminate these employees, then Lavalin should have paid the $3.5 million, not the taxpayers of this province. Could the minister tell this House why it was the taxpayers of Ontario, through their provincial government, who funded this payout and not Lavalin?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think as the member from Mississauga East well knows, the wind-up of any operation is taken from the incoming revenue, the accounts receivable from that operation. And certainly that's the case in the payout to the severance pay, etc., to the 71 former employees of UTDC.
Supplementary.
Mr. Minister, obviously the minister neglected the main point of my question, but Mr. Minister, as a supplementary, since the closing of this deal, we have learned about a number of lump sum payments by the province which were required to consummate the sale. This, I might add, is just one of them. Considering the increased amount the province is having to pay to Lavalin to be rid of this corporation, is the minister now admitting that the government, through its fire sale mentality, made a bad deal and one which has cost the taxpayers dearly? Is the minister readily admitting that on closing, Lavalin gave you $10 million and then you spent $3.5 million of it to pay off the employees terminated by Lavalin?
Minister.
Speaker, we've been through this question on UTDC on more than one previous occasion, and the members of the opposition on that side don't seem to understand that there is revenue coming in from the 7 outstanding contracts from the old UTDC. From that outstanding revenue, all of these lump sums and other payments are made from that incoming revenue to the old UTDC.
New question. The member for Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a question to the Minister of the Environment about the Niagara River. The Minister, I'm sure, would agree that the most serious threat to the health of the residents of Ontario is the potential of the Hyde Park dump site to flood Lake Ontario with dioxins. The Minister has now been in office for 16 months, and he's been no more successful than any one of his predecessors in getting the U.S. government to excavate that dump site. Can the Minister explain why his ministry has continued to go along with the interminable four-party negotiations and monitoring, and why he has refused to take independent legal action against Hooker Chemicals, as I asked him to do several months ago?
Minister.
Well, I guess the question, Mr. Speaker, is in two parts as I see it. The first dealing with the Hyde Park site. As the member would be aware, on many occasions, both on this side of the border and the other side of the border, and in my discussions with Mr. Henry Williams, the Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation in New York State, I have indicated clearly and publicly that we in Ontario believe that the site, which was a toxic waste site at Hyde Park, should indeed be excavated. And in that connection, we provided funding, I believe it was $25,000, to assist, along with the federal government providing funding, the pollution probe consulting firm investigation and report, which, in our view, should point to the fact that it is a viable option, the excavation of that site. The Americans have, while not entirely ruling out that option, entirely and completely, have not described it as a favored option at this time. And we continue to indicate clearly to them that particular position. And I think we have a number of people on the other side of the river who are sympathetic to the position which we have enunciated on many occasions. As to the four-party agreement that, or discussions that the member indicates we've been involved in, It would be highly irresponsible for us to completely cut off those discussions and negotiations. As she would be aware, a minor advancement was made this past week in that there was a technical agreement to proceed with some monitoring and evaluation, which ultimately would lead to the abatement. The member is also aware that I'm not satisfied that this is a sufficient step to deal with the problem of solution, except that it is indeed the first step.
I might just suggest it might be helpful if the individual members didn't ask 2- and 3-part questions. That actually took a little over 2 minutes to get response to the 2 questions. Supplementary?
Mr. Speaker, I asked a simple question. Why hadn't he taken legal action? If he intends to answer 3 different questions, all of which he's answered before, and all of which amounts to rhetoric instead of any commitment to action, I don't think I should begin that.
Well, I recognize the member with a supplementary.
We've heard it all before, Mr. Speaker. We've heard that he wants excavation. We've heard that he's supported other groups in intervening. We now have a respected scientific journal, Environmental Science and Technology, saying that within 2 years of a gush of dioxins from the Hyde Park site, the whole of Lake Ontario would be contaminated. And what we want to know from the minister is, why isn't he meeting with Governor Cuomo, shouting to the federal government that it's not good enough, and intervening on behalf of the people of this province in an independent legal action to get some cleanup?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I was under the impression that I was the only one who was suffering from high blood pressure, but after the put-down, if that is what it was, of the Speaker's ruling, perhaps I am sharing that with a critic from the opposition. I want to indicate to her that I feel that the information that will be forthcoming from the investigation and report which we are funding in conjunction with the federal government, the Pollution Probe Initiative in this regard, that we feel there will be some significant ammunition to be found in that particular report which will assist us in any particular court case. As the member would be aware, to this point in time, court cases have not been exceedingly successful, and in the United States tend to be long and drawn out. And it is our feeling that, and I wish I could meet with Governor Cuomo, he's involved in a campaign at the present time, and some may wish him well. I won't inject myself into that campaign, but I assure the member, Mr. Speaker, that we will take any and every effective action to continue to persuade our American friends of the benefits of undertaking the activities we have described.
New question. The member for Eglinton.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Revenue. The Minister will know that Metro Council has given what could be described as its qualified endorsement to the implementation of market value assessment. In that, Council has indicated that it wants further studies done on the implications of moving to market value assessment, and given the Minister's previous comments that he would not release individual assessment reports until after Council had agreed on such a reform, would the Minister please tell the House when we might expect these individual assessment reports to be released to the public and to this House?
Minister,
we should agree on
Speaker, I
everything.
was very glad indeed of the action taken by Metro Council. I know that they worked many long hours to come up with the resolution that indicated a qualified support, which I thought was very satisfactory indeed. I think I've pointed out previously that to make available the house-by-house or property-by-property assessment would mean that anybody who had an assessment higher than was projected in the reassessment would have grounds or may have grounds to go to appeal, and that we considered it unwise and not in the best interests of the ratepayers of the City of Toronto. Well, okay, but I'm trying to explain what the problem is, and that is it would really depreciate the tax base of the various cities in metropolitan Toronto. It has no effect on revenues for the province whatsoever. I should tell you that I've spoken to the Metro chairman since that time, and that our people are meeting with him, I want to make available anything that can possibly further the studies and the work that is going forward in support of the move to market value assessment. Please do not take the idea immediately that somehow we're keeping back information that should be made public because of the reason that I've tried to make clear. And if you people representing the ratepayers in that area feel that the information should be sent out publicly, well, I'd be glad to know that.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the proposed tax reform could have a tremendous impact on a lot of homeowners, as the Treasurer is well aware, and as the Minister of Revenue is well aware. And many people could face very substantial tax increases. Surely, Mr. Speaker, this information should be made available to the public. Will the Minister not agree to release the information before the end of this study period has been undertaken by Metro Council so that the taxpayers in Metro can have an idea about the impact that this reassessment could have on their individual properties?
Minister?
Speaker, I think that most of the officials, at least of Metropolitan Toronto, share my concern that the information on a house-by-house basis would be counterproductive in that it may very well lead to a dislocation of the tax system. But all of this information, Mr. Speaker, is available on the basis of regions and ranges, which can give the clear indication of the numbers of people whose assessment would be raised and the numbers of people whose assessment would be reduced. And we're quite prepared to make all of that information available to the tax officials of Metropolitan Toronto.
New question. The member for Welland Thorold.
Speaker, I'd like to ask a question to the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations. He will know, of course, that last week the Ontario Hospital Association decided to self-insure its members, and they did that, of course, because of an eightfold increase in premiums to the hospitals over an 8-year period, or over eightfold increase over a 2-year period, when there, in fact, was very little increase in payout. I'd like to ask the Minister whether he would assure that the necessary backup of reinsurance is available either through an arrangement with the present reinsurers or through provincial government guarantee, so that that proposed hospital plan can be a success and can save your government and the people of this province many millions of dollars.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, the member from Welland Thorold would know that even as a result of the Slater Committee report, and prior to that, we had indicated through my ministry that we would help groups like school boards, hospitals, and municipalities to set up reciprocals. And we've given them information on how to do it, and to date, both the boards of education and the hospitals have seen fit to make their own investigations and decide that, yes, they want to proceed with a reciprocal. That is their decision, and to date, no representations have been made to me for any sort of assistance, and until that happens, I can't really respond.
Supplementary?
Of course, what the minister said was that he's not prepared to give any guarantee. I want to ask by way of supplementary that now the hospitals have got themselves out from under the avarice of the private insurance companies through their own initiative. You admit this, not yours. What do you suggest that an organization like the Phyllis Griffiths Neighborhood Community Center in Scarborough should do? Although they've had no claims whatsoever, they've been unable to get liability insurance after trying for a period of 6 months. They've canceled babysitting programs, gym programs, preschool, nursery, children's ballet, programs for seniors, so forth and so forth. And I simply want to ask you if you don't think that the thousands of horrendous situations like that exist at the community center dictates that you intervene and either regulate the rates of the present insurance companies to an affordable level, or do as you've been asked to do by 2 of those directors and set up government insurance for these volunteer organizations.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, contrary to what the member said, that I refuse to help the hospitals, I've not been asked to do anything for them, so there's no reason for any response. But to get back to your last point in your question, the member will know that through the good offices of my ministry, we were able to set up the Ontario Liability Insurers. the Ontario Liability Insurers has been very successful, and I can say to him that I don't know of one single instance where insurance was not available. I don't know of one. I keep hearing these stories, and when we check it out, we find that, oh yes, insurance was available, but we have decided not to avail ourselves of it. But if he can bring to my attention a case where they cannot get insurance, well, I can say to you that if you send me the details, I can probably guarantee that the Ontario Liability Insurers can find them insurance.
New question. New question, the member for Durham West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have a question for the Minister of Beer, Wine and Financial Institutions. Mr. Minister, you may have heard of an excellent service centre in Durham Region, happens to be domiciled in Oshawa, called the Durham House Child and Family Centre. Mr. Minister, this institution, like many others, and I understand it's something like about 1,800 similar agencies throughout the province, have had great difficulties with liability insurance, to the point that many of the directors feel that they will have no alternative to resign very shortly unless that problem is resolved. For example, on the recent renewal of their liability insurance, it not only went up substantially in rates, of course, which is par for the course, but they also had 2 exclusion clauses put in that the board of directors feel are untenable. And that is a child molestation exclusion and athletic participation exclusion.
And the question is?
Mr. Speaker, an institution cannot operate with those kind of exclusions.
Please.
What is the minister doing about this particular situation and approximately 1,800 others within the province?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my previous answer applies in many cases to the same situation that the member has brought to my attention. Should let him know that there's no question that insurance companies, when they look at the situation of child molestation, get very, very nervous. It's something they have very little control over, and many of them provide exclusions. Notwithstanding that, I say to him, as I said to the previous questioner, that to my knowledge, there is not a single institution in Ontario that cannot get that kind of insurance. They may not be happy with the rate, but the insurance is available. And if he would bring to my attention and give me the details, I'd be happy to pursue it for him.
Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, supplementary. I mean, that's like saying if somebody can't afford to drive a bicycle, we'll provide a Cadillac as long as they can handle the payment. Exactly. But, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the minister, so far the Ontario Liability Insurance Association has said that they might be able to get $250,000 of coverage for child molestation and $1 million for athletic participation. The board feel, and I understand generally throughout the industry they feel, that $2 million is an absolute minimum that's required. So you may think you're solving the problem, but you aren't. What are you going to do about it?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the member has just brought to our attention exactly the situation. There are boards who have arbitrarily decided that yes, insurance is available at a specific level, but we want more. But we don't want to pay any more for it. And that's a decision they have to make. Now, if, in fact, there is no insurance available, and this child molestation is a perfect example, then there is a problem. But it is available. It may not be available at the levels that they want, at the price they want to pay. But that is something that each individual group has to determine on their own, and that's a business decision.
New question, the member for Bellwoods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of the Environment arising from the study of soil lead contamination.
Captain Chemical's not here. Captain Chemical has disappeared. There he is.
I have a question for the Minister on soil lead contamination in the neighborhood of the Toronto refiners and smelters. The Minister will know that the September 86 report indicates that average soil lead concentration in the neighborhood of Toronto refiners and smelters more than doubled from 5,000, an average of 5,090, I think it's parts per million in 1980, to 11,745 in 1985. My question is simply this. During this period in which the soil lead readings went up 126%. Can the minister explain why officials from his ministry consistently and repeatedly informed the community of residents who live around Toronto's refiners and smelters that there were no risks, there were no hazards, there was no serious contamination problem from the plant? Why did officials attend community meetings and tell the residents those things when they knew it wasn't true? Why did they write those things in letters when they knew it wasn't true?
Mr. Speaker, the member raised this matter in the House originally, I believe, last week in the form of a statement, and I, at that time, of course, I look at the statements that are made in Hansard and am attempting to track down some of the information that the member has brought before the House, and I'm making some inquiries internally within the ministry. I know that the member is going to be supplying to me in the relatively near future, I think, some supplementary written information which will guide me in attempting to ferret out precisely the instances in which these pieces of information were brought forward to the people in the neighborhood, and I'll look forward to receiving that information in the letter that I know the member will be sending to me, because we would always want to be assured that the information that has been provided in the past would be factual.
Supplementary?
Well, I have sent the minister the letter, and to be specific, by way of supplementary, at a meeting on 26th October 1984 of the Niagara Neighborhood Residents Association, the ministry, with a number of officials present, advised the residents not to be concerned, despite the fact that it turned out there were 4 violations in the previous month of September 1984. I can go on chapter and verse to document the fact that your officials advised the residents in that neighborhood that they had nothing to worry about and that they should not have any concerns, that the pollution was under control and that they were not at risk. I want a full report from the minister as to how it is that the regulatory agency can in fact engage in the systematic process of disinformation over a period of 5 years. And secondly, I want to know now what your ministry intends to do to protect those residents.
Minister?
Well, on the first one, Mr. Speaker, I have indicated to the member that I'm prepared to gather the information which he seeks. I have not yet seen the letter. He has sent the letter. I've not yet seen it. When I do see it, it will provide some guidance as to the specifics of this. I will also investigate precisely what information was provided on the 26th of October of 1984 at that particular meeting, because we would want to, as I say, ensure, first of all, we would want to ensure, first of all, that the information provided all along has been factual, and where it has not been factual, to indicate that. And second, in terms of the rectification of the situation, there are a few avenues of action that the member would be aware of. One of them, of course, is to continue the efforts to abate the problem that exists at the company itself. That is to reduce that. He would know that a program approval was in effect this summer, where certain activities were undertaken that were required by the Ministry of the Environment, and that further action will be taken during their shutdown in December of this year.
New question.
In addition to this, there would be soil removal and other activities.
New question. The member for Durham York.
Yes, I have a question for the Minister of Agriculture, if he is in the wings.
He's out cleaning his boots.
Cadillac Jack. No, I missed it.
You're kidding?
We were watching the Waltons instead.
We turned off the comedy hour. Was it Laugh-In Saturday night?
There might be some other member wishing to ask a question. The member for Simcoe Center.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question to the Minister of Community and Social Services. Mr. Minister, this weekend in Barrie, a mother had to give up her 4 children, 3 of which went to the Children's Aid Society, in order that she and her husband might find housing. What is your government going to do to ensure that the children of this province have adequate housing and families are not forced to give up their children in order to find shelter?
Minister?
Mr. I'm not aware of the particular case that the member brings to my attention,
but I would draw to his attention that my colleague, the Minister of Housing, made an announcement just a few short weeks ago that an additional 3,000 units would be made available for people who were in those kinds of particular circumstances, and they will come on the market as quickly as possible.
Supplementary?
Well, I say, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, that does a lot for this mother and her children. And as a matter of record, Mr. Minister, there are 5 more families just like this in the city of Barrie who also may have to give up their children in order to find housing. Today we learned about $400 million in 6 months in excess revenue. And in 1986, we've got mothers giving their children up so they can find housing. Now, what is your government going to do about it?
What a record over there.
Mr. Speaker, the member will remember that my colleague, the Minister of Housing, did announce 6,000 units last year. I've just indicated 3,000 additional units were just put on the market. We are cooperating with a number of municipalities with respect to emergency housing. We have winter emergency housing programs all across the province of Ontario, but the member would surely realize this is not something you turn on or off overnight.
New question, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Attorney General. The Attorney General and his top ministry staff have recently been sharing with the press a new governmental concern for the enforcement of access rights for non-custodial parents. I wonder if the Attorney General would share with us the reason why both he and the Minister of Community and Social Services have refused funding for the organization called Access for Parents and Children, which is the only organization in Metro Toronto providing a supervised access programs for families in which access has become a battle and the children have become pawns.
Minister.
Honourable member is right. We are looking at methods within the jurisdiction of the province. We have no control over orders made under the Divorce Act, of course. In order to ascertain if access cannot be made more easily available, and if remedies cannot be available that are more appropriate when access arrangements fail. As the honourable member will know, my ministry is not a line ministry that funds agencies of the type that she describes, though I'm familiar with the work of the agency to which she refers.
Minister? The member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General is proposing to change our legislation to make life more acceptable and easier for kids whose family life has been broken up and where an access battle has developed. But at the same time, he hasn't taken enough care to make sure that the Community and Social Services Minister with whom he works in the Cabinet is providing funding for an existing program which is now threatened with closure because there hasn't been government funding, and the United Church has become the funder of last resort for hundreds of families who use that service a year.
Minister.
Speaker, I'm delighted that the honourable member is supportive of the legislative scheme we are considering. It's very useful to have support of the odd opposition member in matters of this type so we can finally get something done around here, and I'm grateful to her for her help. As she knows well, the Minister of Community and Social Services and I talk regularly about these matters. He is very conscious, as I am, that worthwhile groups that make a contribution should be supported insofar as, in terms of fiscal responsibility, we can do so. And she'll be glad to hear that we'll continue to take that attitude.
New question. The member for Sarnia.
To the Minister of Municipal Affairs, I raised the question with the Minister about a week ago with respect to the problems of high water along the Great Lakes and the communities that are on those particular in those particular locations. Mr. Minister, my question is, because the most recent reports that have come in within the last few days indicate further record highs for high water, are you in fact working cooperatively with your ministerial colleagues to look at an emergency fund to help municipalities and others who are affected by these totally unprecedented high water levels?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I guess the answer I gave to the member of Sarnia a couple of weeks ago still stands. Yes, I am working on a long-term program, and I indicated to my colleague that at the present time we've extended the existing program until the end of March 1987. Now, I can't control the waters, but we have not refused any municipal demand or township demands, and I'm still interested in knowing more about any municipalities that complain to my colleague.
Supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to suggest to the minister that, and I don't want to sound parochial by only suggesting my own municipalities have problems. Municipalities up and down the Great Lakes are being critically and severely affected by the high water problem. In one of my municipalities that I represent, the total loss of a road is now imminent. The municipality has written it off, and there's no way of saving that particular road. What we're faced with, sir, is a critical situation that is unprecedented in the history of Ontario. These are historical high water levels that we have never experienced at any time previously. Will you consider, my question to the minister, will you consider a new program, something that will respond not in the long term, but immediately to the problem that we're faced with at the present time? Something that comes up in a year, 2 years from now, will not be adequate to serve the needs of the people who are being affected today.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned before, the ministry has never refused a municipal demand at the present time, never. And I'm consulting with the Minister of Natural Resources to come up with a long-term solution to these problems. But I repeat, Mr. Speaker, we have not turned down any municipal requests for roads or whatever the case may be. Mr. Minister, my colleague, or Mr. Speaker, I'm asking my colleague again to provide me with all these information, and I can guarantee you that we will respond adequately.
New question. The member for Hamilton West.
Mr. Speaker, a question to the Minister for Education on a rather precise aspect of educational finance. He will be aware that the public boards of this province provide the bulk, in some cases all, the adult education programs that take place in many communities. Certainly that's true in Toronto. And indeed, the Public Board of Toronto, with the city itself, has more adult students than it has non-adult students. In the wake of Bill 30, Catholic adult education and adult re-entry students in the system in Toronto and Greater Toronto are meeting some new requirements from the public boards by way of having to declare their religious affiliation and meeting additional, sometimes multiple, course fees and costs for their programs. What does the minister propose to do about this form of double discrimination which is creeping into the adult education programs in the public boards?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, to the honourable member, as I have indicated to him on a number of previous occasions, this government is very supportive of expanding the base and the opportunities in the area of adult education. We have said throughout the discussion with respect to the bill to which he makes reference that we wanted the separate and the public systems to expand their activities in this area. We've provided additional funding for that to take place. Obviously, we have said in the legislation, Bill 30, with the support of the committee, that we want a policy of open access to characterize the student admissions policy of both boards, and we would expect that to take place at the adult ed level as well as elsewhere in the secondary panel. And I certainly want, Mr. Speaker, to suggest to the honourable member that we will be very anxious to look at any information that he might care to provide to ensure that in this period of transition those government objectives are in fact met.
Supplementary?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister will recall that in recent years the past administration reduced its commitment to adult education in the system as a whole, and therefore the boards have some problems financing those programs. Secondly, those boards are not allowed properly to charge for credit courses, for literacy courses, for ESL, FSL courses. Surely he's not suggesting that, that it would be proper for a double system of fees to develop in the public boards based on religion, and thus provide pressure for duplication in the separate system of reentry programs and so on, which really is unnecessary. Surely it's improper, it's certainly invidious for the public boards to ask the religion of registrants, foolish for us to require virtually that duplication, and unfair to the public boards to have to bear the full burden of the cost. Can't you move in and meet some of that additional cost for those boards so that those unfortunate developments don't happen?
Mr. Speaker, I want to say to the honourable member that we have tried to the best of our ability over recent months to expand the opportunities for school boards in this area of adult education. My colleague, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, and I have both been involved in a number of new initiatives with respect to literacy, for example, and we have made changes within the general legislative grant that we believe are an important step forward. Yes, I say to the honourable member, we do not want to see unnecessary duplication. We do not want to see anything but a harmonious relationship as between boards in the interests of all of the students, and we want to see the most equitable financial treatment of students and boards in this connection. And I repeat, if the honourable member has specific information that he would like to share, I know, Mr. Speaker, that he will be aware that he'll have that opportunity in the very, very near future, and I look forward to receiving the information.
Time for oral questions has expired.